The death penalty has been controversial since the first cases in the early 1600s. Otherwise known as capital punishment, the death penalty is currently defined as government sanctioned punishment by death. There are many crimes that can result in a death sentence. These are known as capital crimes and can include treason or first-degree murder. Historically, executions were carried out in public, such as the first recorded U.S. death sentence in 1608. The first notable example of public execution was carried out in our state when 38 Native Americans were hung simultaneously in Mankato, Minnesota. There are currently only 19 states that do not enforce the death penalty, Minnesota being one of them. These states abolished the death penalty early on in American history. There was a brief period of time where capital punishment was suspended from 1972 to 1976 through the result of the Furman v. Georgia Supreme Court case. The case found that the death penalty was imposed in an unconstitutional manner on the grounds of cruel and unusual punishments. The penalty was reinstated in 76 following Gregg v. Georgia, another Supreme Court case involving capital crime and punishment. This changed the process and grounds on which capital punishment would be implemented. Capital punishment still continues today with 62 inmates currently on death row. I personally believe that the death penalty should be abolished in all states. I think that it is a punishment that is simply unnecessary. There are horrible people who should never be allowed to walk the streets of our country as free citizens. These people have all committed horrific crimes and deserve to be punished for it. However, I do not think that they should be executed. All prisoners who are on death row are serving life in prison already and are all serving it in solitary confinement. This alone is one of the worst punishments for the worst type of criminals. These inmates are made to sit and think on the crimes they've committed for years until their death in prison. The death penalty completely subverts this and, in my opinion, gives these criminals an easy way out. The death penalty allows inmates to escape from the crimes they've done. Another stance I take is that I don't believe in an eye for an eye punishment system. If a man kills someone and then is killed for doing so, is that justice? In my opinion, it is not. I believe in taking the higher ground in any situation, and I believe it should be done here as well. Punishing them with life in prison instead of execution is a much more honorable thing to do. Our government should never be in charge of taking lives, no matter how extreme the case. I believe punishment is necessary, but retaliation is not. My public policy proposal is that there be an abolishment on capital punishment. I think there should be a country-wide ban on the death penalty across all states. The first purpose of this would be the money that is involved in capital punishment. The legal fees required to deal with capital cases are substantially higher than cases involving life in prison. This would save the country billions if a ban is placed on capital punishment. Second reason is simply the fact that killing of criminals does not bring back victims and their families. Studies have shown that victims' families are no better off emotionally after the execution of the criminal. Lastly is the ineffectiveness of deterring criminals. A July 2009 study demonstrated overwhelming consensus among criminologists in cases of the deterring effects of the death penalty. The study showed that the death penalty had no effect on current criminals and those who are already in prison. There are risks to this policy, such as overcrowding of jails or victims demanding so-called justice against criminals. However, we as upstanding members of society must stand up for what we know is right.